He was one of the richest black Americans in the 1980s and the first black American to build a billion-dollar company, TLC Beatrice International Holdings Incorporated. I'm Tyrone Bowman. This is Tyrone Bowman Tonight. Just before we get started, take out a few moments if you happen to be passing by and you're looking at this channel on this evening. Would you like, subscribe, and share to Tyrone Bowman Tonight? Also, a question: do you have a prophetic call on your life? If so, then the higher dimensions School of the Prophets may be just for you. Simply go to www.schoolfortheprophets.com. That's www.schoolfortheprophets.com. And now on to the topic of discussion for this evening. Reginald F. Lewis was born the 7th of December of 1942, was an American businessman. He was one of the richest black Americans in the 1980s and the first black American to build a billion-dollar company, TLC Beatrice International Holdings, Inc. In 1993, Forbes listed Lewis among the 400 richest Americans with a net worth estimated at $1 billion. Recruited to top New York law firm Paul, Weiss, Rifkin, Wharton, and Garrison. Immediately after law school, Lewis left to start his own firm 2 years later. After 15 years as a corporate lawyer with his own practice, he moved to the other side of the table by creating TLC Group, TLC Group, a private equity firm in 1983. His first major deal was the purchase of the McCall Pattern Company, a home sewing pattern business, for $22.5 million. Lewis had learned from a Fortune magazine article that the S-Mark Holding Company, which had recently purchased Norton Simon, planned to divest from the McCall Pattern Company, a maker of home sewing patterns founded in 1870. With fewer and fewer people sewing at home, McCall was seemingly on the decline, though it had posted profits of $6 million in 1983 on sales of $51.9 million. At the time, McCall was number 2 in its industry, holding 29.7% of the market compared to industry leader Simplicity Patterns with 39.4%. He managed to negotiate the price down, then raised $1 million himself from family and friends, and borrowed the rest from institutional investors, an investment banking firm, First Boston Corporation. Within a year, he turned the company around by freeing a capital tied in fixed assets such as building and machinery, and finding a new use for machinery during downtime by manufacturing greeting cards. He then started to recruit managers from rival companies. He further strengthened McCall by containing costs, improving quality, beginning to export to China, emphasizing new product introductions. This new combination led to the company's most profitable year in its history, with the addition of McCall Real Estate worth an estimated $6 million that the company retained ownership of. He later sold McCall at a, listen to this, 90-to-1 return, resulting in a tremendous profit for investors. Lewis's share was 81.7% of the $90 million. In 1987, Lewis brought Beatrice International Foods from Beatrice Companies for $985 million, renaming it TLC Beatrice International Holdings, Inc., a snack food, beverage, and grocery store conglomerate that was the largest African-American owned and managed business in the United States. The deal was partly financed through Mike Milken of the Maverick Investment Group, or the Maverick Investment Bank rather, Drexel Borham Lambert, in order to reduce the amount needed to finance the leveraged buyout. Lewis came up with a plan to sell off some of the division assets simultaneous with the takeover. When TLC Beatrice reported a revenue of $1.8 billion in 1987, it became the first black-owned company to have more than $1 billion in annual sales. At its peak in 1996, TLC Beatrice International Holdings Incorporated had sales of $2.2 billion and was number 512 on Fortune magazine's list of 1,000 largest companies. Hot tickety. In 1987, Lewis established the Reginald F. Lewis Foundation, which funded grants of approximately $10 million to various nonprofit programs and organizations while he was alive. His first major grant was unsolicited, $1 million to Howard University in 1988. The federal government matched the grant, making the gift $2 million, which was used to fund an endowment for scholarships, fellowships, and faculty sabbaticals. In 1992, Lewis donated $3 million to Harvard Law School, the largest grant at the time in the school's history. The school renamed its International Law Center the Reginald F. Lewis International Law Center, the first major facility at Harvard named in honor of an African American. While alive, Lewis made known his desire to support a museum of African American culture. In 2005, the Reginald F. Lewis Museum of Maryland African American History and Culture opened in Baltimore with the support of a $5 million grant from his foundation. It is the East Coast's largest African American museum, occupying an 82,000 square foot faculty with permanent and special exhibition space, interactive learning environments, auditorium resource center, oral history recording studio, museum shop, cafe, classrooms, meeting rooms, outside terrace, and reception areas. It highlights the history and accomplishments of African Americans with a special focus on Maryland's African American community. The museum is also a Smithsonian affiliate. Born in Baltimore, Maryland, Lewis grew up in a middle-class neighborhood. He won a football scholarship to Virginia State University and joined the Alpha Phi chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi with an undergraduate student, or while an undergraduate student. After graduating from VSU with a degree in political science in 1965, he took part in a summer program at Harvard set up by the Rockefeller Foundation that introduced African Americans to study law. While there, he made such an impression that Harvard invited him to attend school that fall. At the time, this made him the only person in the 148-year history of Harvard to be accepted before even applying. He attended Harvard Law School and completed his Juris Doctorate degree in 1968. He is married to Loida Nicholas Lewis. They had two daughters, I'm not going to name. Lewis died at age 50 from brain cancer. A PBS documentary aired in February of 2018 and chronicled the life of Reginald Lewis. Remember this: health, happiness, success, prosperity, joy, and money is obtainable in this life if you're willing to work hard, if you're willing to do what others aren't willing to do, if you're willing to sacrifice, if you're willing to go above and beyond the call of duty. Most people are not willing to go the extra mile. That is a biblical principle that Jesus himself taught. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, check it out. The American dream, as they so-called named it, it's only obtainable if you work for it. Nothing is going to be given to individuals without hard work, study, education, investment, proper mentoring, and yes, sacrifice. Always remember that. Anything worth having in this life is worth fighting for. Anything worth having in this life is worth fighting for. You can be, do, and have whatever it is that you desire to be, whatever it is that you desire to do, whatever it is that you desire to have. You can have it all, but first of all, you must make up your mind. When you make up your mind, that is the first step toward self-success, as I like to call it. Always remember, no one in this life owes us anything. Irregardless of our environmental surroundings, irregardless of where we come from, irregardless of how hard the battle in life has been. Make up in your mind to succeed. Make up in your mind to prosper. Make up in your mind that you are going to go beyond the norm. This is the reason why I am highlighting all these African American entrepreneurs, to allow our people to know if they did it during their time, we can do it during ours. Never surrender, never quit.